Hey, friends, happy Monday. As of the release of this episode, it will be Monday, April 13th, and there is a lot going on. I took off last week for spring break with the kids. It was really nice to have that time with them and to be able to just enjoy my kids being feral for a week. But it was also ended up being nice to have that time off just as I was processing the energy of the week and that energy of everything going on, right? There's so much happening right now. There's a lot of really hard things happening right now. And I was glad that I had that week to kind of process. It's going to continue that way for a while, right? We've been saying buckle up. April is a wild month. Mars is now in Aries, which is its home sign. So Mars has basically all of its power, we would say, when it's in its home sign. And it's making direct connections with both Neptune and Saturn, which went into Aries this year. So and we're seeing this play out in real time. We're seeing this play out through conflicts being escalated, through war. These are Mars in Aries themes. And then when we have other planets there, it's just adding to that. So it's probably going to continue this way for a little bit. And then the repercussions of these coming weeks are not something that's going to go away overnight. So I share that with you because I don't want you to be going into your weeks as if nothing's happening. I don't want you to be going into your weeks as if you're crazy for feeling like the energy is really hard right now. The energy is really hard right now. The things going on around us are incredibly difficult to process. And I don't have a really great answer for that other than awareness of it. Knowing that each one of us is going to process differently, each one of us is going to respond differently. The fact of the matter is, this is challenging energy. And during this time, give yourself that space that you need to process. Give yourself permission to lean into what is going on for you and really get into the roots of things. That's, I think, going to be the most helpful for you because that kind of brings you back into that grounded space. Aries is a fire energy. It is very bold. It is an initiator. There's so many really cool qualities with Aries. It's a great leader energy. If you have strong Aries in your chart, you may be feeling this in different ways. Regardless of that, there is a need for grounding. There is a need for some water and emotional energy to kind of balance out the fire energy. I hope that that is helpful for you. As I look at what's going on over the next couple of months, not just astrologically, but in the world and in what I'm feeling called to, I am two things. I am one, recognizing the challenge that's going on. There's nothing easy about the moment that we are living in. I don't think it's an easy moment to be living through. And we get choices on how we proceed with that. What I have seen through the astrological community, through my own studies, is we are going through massive change, which when we come out of this is going to mean that knowing who we are is even more essential than what it is now. I think it's important now that we know who we are, but this new kind of what's coming is the requirement that we be ultra clear on who we are and what that means in practical terms. And so I'm going to be doing a free webinar later this month and in May that I'm super excited about. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I want to kind of go back to something that we have talked about a little bit previously, but I think is helpful to talk about now. And that is what we do when we don't feel content at work. How do we process discontentment with work? And it's going to look different at different times, but I think it would be helpful to talk about this in the context of how I have dealt with it previously, because you might find yourself in some of my story. My kind of main job for about 6 years was I was a pastor's wife. I was married to a pastor. So I saw my role as both supporting him and my kids at home and then supporting the people who we served at church. And all through that time, there was this sense of like, I didn't belong, that I was kind of at loggerheads. There was friction between me and some of my values and other church leaders. And of course, during that time, I thought there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with my theology. There's something wrong with the way that I show up. There's something wrong with how I'm interpreting this. And so I spent a good chunk of those 6 years trying to fix that, trying to fit into what was expected of me. I can tell you it didn't work, right? I use that in the past tense. We're not married. I'm no longer a pastor's wife. Coming out of that, I had to figure out what is my career going to be because I only worked a few hours a week prior to that. I had a full-time job before we had kids, but then I was only working a few hours a week. And it was scary. It was scary being a newly single mom. It was scary not knowing how I was going to pay my rent or my bills. Thank goodness I had the help of family members to get me through those first couple of years. So I very quickly knew that I had to make some changes. I was able to get a pay raise really quickly. I was able to go from part-time to full-time. And I loved the company that I worked with. I loved the people that I worked with. I loved the work that I was doing, but I felt this sense of like, I'm not challenged enough. I needed more challenge. And so I eventually went to another company where I was very challenged. It was a wealth management firm backed by private equity. We were doing acquisitions across the country. I grew so quickly in that position. I was there for, I think, about 3 years. And I had the support of an incredible VP. I loved the challenge. But the farther that I got in leadership there, the more that I saw that the values that drove the decisions of the company, not the values that were stated, that were written on the wall, but the values that drove the decisions of the leadership team were in some ways in direct opposition to my own values. And I made the decision to leave that company because of it. I went to another company where for the most part, I really liked the values of the company. I, again, worked for a wonderful VP, had the ability to grow, had the ability to try new things, but I just didn't feel settled there. And what I realized, I was only there for a fairly short amount of time, but what I realized was the company culture was very rooted in tradition. And by this time, I was already really digging deep into astrology, digging deep into my own astrology, into my own blueprint. And what I saw was I was able to look back at each of these jobs and go, okay, as a pastor's wife, knowing now what I do about my purpose, because my sun is in Aquarius, right? My sun in Aquarius is non-traditional. It is not dogmatic. It wants what is good for the whole, even if that means breaking from tradition. The pastor's wife role is a very traditional role, and it requires a lot of dogmatic thinking. At least in my context, it did. And so looking back, I'm able to go, oh my gosh, I was in this role that did not have room for my purpose. The way that I am meant to shine is through forging a new path forward, through doing things differently for the good of everybody, not just those who fit within this, nice little tidy box of who's in and who's out. Looking at the position where I was in after that, where I loved the company, I loved what I was doing, really loved the people, but I didn't feel challenged enough, going, oh, my moon is in Capricorn. I have a deep-rooted need for challenge, to be able to set a really big goal and meet that goal. That is a deep-seated need of mine. And then going into the next company where the values, where I realized that those were in opposition to my own, and then learning about my rising sign in Libra. Libra is a bridge builder. It brings harmony where there's chaos. Libra loves justice. And so in a setting where the values that drove decisions weren't things like bridge building and justice, and in some ways were oppositional to that, I couldn't use my unique gifts. Right? Our rising sign is our gifts. It's that perspective or the filter or the lens that we see the world through. When I go into any situation or I'm processing something in HR, processing what's going on with an employee, what's going on with a policy, whatever it is, I'm thinking about, is there justice in this? Is there a gap that we need to bridge? Is there a place where we can bring harmony? Those are all things that I'm thinking through. And I have to be able to do that to use my gifts. And so by the time that I got to this last position where I was like, all right, this is also not working for me, I'm realizing I'm starting to be a job hopper, which does not look good on resumes. It doesn't look great when we have 2 years here, a year and a half here, 2 years there. Sometimes that happens, right? That's what mine looked like for a long time. But I knew that whatever was next needed to be something that not only was aligned with my purpose and my needs and my gifts, but that if possible, I could stay in for at least a few years so that I didn't add to that. That was really important to me, was to not add to that. It's not a deal breaker, right? If you are thinking about your resume looking like that, it's not a deal breaker. And there's ways that that can be addressed. But for me, that was really important. And so I knew I needed a place where it wasn't going to be traditional, right? I needed a place where the company itself wasn't rooted in tradition. I needed a place to go where I could build something big. I needed to take on big challenges, not just once in a while, but on a consistent basis. And I knew that I needed to be able to bring my gift of building bridges, my gift of bringing seemingly opposing things together to find a way to make it work for everybody. And in the position I'm in now, I've been there for, it'll be 3 years in October, so going on 3 years. I'm able to do all of it. I am the first HR person in a startup company. There's nothing traditional about it. I'm not having to carry on somebody else's work because there was nobody in HR before me with the company. So I'm doing something brand new. I'm doing something future focused. I'm doing something that allows me to build. I'm constantly challenged in this role, whether it's there's a new tech issue with our HR system or there's an employee challenge that I'm dealing with. Either way, there's something forever going on where I'm like, all right, let's go, buckle up, new challenge here. But I want to go back to what I started this with, which is what we do when we're not content at work. For me, I left. That was my response to not being happy, was I just left. I found something new. That is not the case for everybody. I think a lot of us, when we're not happy at work, we do what I did for so long as a pastor's wife. We say, there's something wrong with me. There's a reason that I'm not happy that I need to fix. And we push those feelings down. We ignore them. We shame ourselves for them. Whatever that is, it's rather than dealing with it, rather than processing through those feelings of being discontent, we go, nope, there's something wrong with me. I hear these things all the time. I should be able to work harder. I should be able to get this person to change their mind and do it differently. I should be able to train others better. I should be able to, whatever, fill in the blank that you are telling yourself that you should be able to do to fix the problem. There is value to staying. There is value to longevity. There is value to staying in the same position for a while. However, what is not valuable, what is not helpful, is not paying attention to the reason that you're discontent. Not paying attention to, is this something that's just temporary? It's going to go away? Is this something where there is a misalignment with my purpose or my needs or my gifts? You might have needs for, let's say that you have a water sign. Your moon is in a water sign. Regardless of which water sign it is, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, there is some form of emotional need that you have. In Pisces, it's going to probably be a little bit more spiritual, ethereal. In Cancer, it might be that direct emotional connection with others. In Scorpio, it might be that emotional safety that comes from knowing the depths of somebody or those who you work with. If those needs aren't being met, you're not going to be happy at work. If you have a fire sign and you have a need to go initiate, make quick decisions and get things going, Aries. If you have a need to gather others around you so you can share your wisdom or your experience or whatever with Leo. If you have that need to like go experience something for yourself and then share that with others, that's very Sagittarius, and that need isn't getting met, you're not going to feel content or happy at work. And if that need isn't getting met and you're saying, well, I'm just too emotional, or I'm too hot headed, I'm too quick to make decisions, whatever it is, right? Or like for me, I felt this as, well, I just need to be more content, especially when I was a pastor's wife. I That is the story that I told myself over and over again was I just need to be more content. I need to do more gratitude journaling. I need to be more thankful for what I have and how things are. I didn't realize that what was happening is my core need for challenge wasn't being met. That wasn't just in that first job as a single mom. That was happening long before. And it's not because there was something wrong with me. It's not because I wasn't content enough. It's because I have a core need to see a big challenge, take it on, and then meet that challenge. That's what I mean when I say we have to have our needs met. We have to know what those needs are first, and then we have to make sure that they're being met. We have to know what our purpose is. How are we meant to shine? For me, it's that, again, trailblazing. It's doing something new, doing something different, doing something non-traditional. That is my purpose. And that's hard. I would love to be able to have somebody be like, here's the way you do it, and then you go do it. There's a certain sense of safety in that. And yet, that does not work for me. I've talked about this on the podcast before, but when I have tried to do that, especially in my own business, it doesn't work. That's just not for me. But knowing what your purpose is, how you're meant to shine, super important. Think about somebody who has their sun in Gemini. They shine when they get to know and tell and write stories. And I don't even mean that as like an author necessarily. I think about one of my sisters is a family law attorney. Her son is in Gemini. She is so, so good at hearing one side of the story and then going, let's find out the other side too, so that when we get to court, we are equipped. We know both sides of the story. And then she helps her clients write the story that they want to write through the court system. It is an incredible gift that she has, but she's living out her purpose that way. With her son in Gemini, she's able to do that. I am doing a free webinar, and it's going to be live only. This is really important, y'all, because this is not something that is meant to just be informational. This is something that is meant to be transformational. It's meant to be something that you are able to take away one practical thing. You might get more than that, but at least one practical thing that you can do following our hour together. It is free because I believe so deeply that this is the foundation to everything else that we need to do. The foundation is knowing who we are at our core. It is knowing our purpose, knowing our needs, and knowing our gifts, and then learning to live in alignment with those. And I don't think it's a super easy thing to do because we don't necessarily see our gifts as such until we really spend time with them through integration. And that's what this webinar is meant to do. It is a complete reworking of a webinar that I did last year called Your Career, Your Terms. And it is 1 day, 1 hour to spend with your purpose, needs, and gifts. If that's something that you're interested in, you can go to mosttrueyou.com/yourterms, YOURTERMS, mosttrueyou.com/yourterms. And like I said, it's free. You pick the date that you want to do it on, and then make sure you show up because it's going to be live. I'm not recording it. This is something that we're going to have the opportunity to process together. I don't want to send out your processing to other people. That's important to me. This is meant to be a truly safe space. And we are going to go deep quickly into your purpose, your needs, and your gifts. I really believe that this is how we get through the coming months, even years of change, is by rooting deeply into our true selves. Like I said, that's going to end up looking different for so many of us. Each of us, it's going to look differently. But we have to know who our true self is first and foremost. Okay, friends, happy Monday. Happy whatever day you're listening to this on. Many blessings for the week ahead, my friends. Bye.